2x2, 7 rows deep.
And rolling up to the start-finish line. It looks like Asher going a little bit off track as the inside.
As they can. Saber making an amazing dive into turn 1.
And electroshocks off, Eggful gets the move.
But MNU trying to take a move.
Big contact from Primo, 5 different punches.
Big incident with Snowdog, our leader.
As we head into town row, it's a big crash. It's a big crash between the two title contenders.
On the 5-year anniversary of the very first Simufur race held in ACC, we return back to where it all started. My name is Denak Kalmari, joined by Kady Timberfox in this commentary box for the very first round of our Premier GT3 series here at Gran Premio Simulafur, the Imola del Primo Lustro.
Excellent name. I love it so much. And you know what else I love is this track. It's one of my favorite tracks ever, and it's actually one that I go back to a lot for trying out new cars, because there's just like so much variation in it. Like you want chicanes, we got 3 of them. They're all at different speeds. You got the slow speed stuff at the hairpin, then the pair of 90-degree reversas at the end of the lap. You got the high-speed Paratella. It's going to test exactly how much downforce you have under you. And the whole lap is just filled with really technical braking zones where you really have to feel the car and feel the grip underneath you. And for the drivers today, they have to do all of that consistently, lap after lap, for one entire calendar hour, and it's a grueling test and a hell of a racetrack, and I'm really excited to be back here. This is the first time we've been at Imola since, what, 2022 in a main series? That sounds right to me.
Yeah, it has been since October 2022 since we've had our show of Imola here in the main series. In fact, Imola has been quite of an infamous infamous race for us here at Simufur. Also home to quite a few incidents. I remember, like, all the way back in 2022 in October, the race we were supposed to have in GT3 Season 4. First time around, red flag for a very famous incident that has now been well recorded in Simufur history. And then once we had a restart of that red flag race, our server also had some issues and that crashed. So when we finally got around to doing it, the same Imola race the 3rd time around a week later, we decided to have it in pouring rain. And this time around, no red flags, but it ended up causing a lot of exciting, super fun action here. And we're going to be coming back to this track now live for the 2nd time. And in fact, we're going to be coming live on the track here now that we have our Code 50 practice as well. And I want to be giving a little bit of a show here to one of our old timers here on this track, because I checked on our own statistics, and on the very first race here at Imola on June 2020, it was actually here, Blade Wolf, who was with us on that race, and he's going to be back here 5 years later.
Really nice to see. I think we had, what, 3 other drivers that have been around since that first race, which is just, like, it's amazing to see. Like, I can't believe that this place has been around for 5 years. I can't even say that I've been around for all of it. It's been, like, a couple years here for me since I started driving here, basically at that spa one-off that we had a couple years ago. That ended up being a first time for, I think, a lot of other people that have now sort of like become regulars around here. But it's just an absolute dream community for me and for a lot of these drivers, I'm sure, to just like have a place where they can do, you know, really great league racing with a bunch of warm and welcoming folks and people who all, you know, we're all sort of united by common interests. And I think that that's a really beautiful thing. And it's it's really great that this place has been able to stick around for this long, and with any luck, it'll be sticking around for quite a long time afterwards.
I am very sure of that. Now that we have only 5 minutes left of our practice session here, let's have a quick look on our times at the top here. And we are going to be seeing quite some familiar faces here at the beginning already. One of our regular resident racers is going to be here, Jordan Johnson, who is in fact one of the previous champions of our mainline GT3 series. And here going to be again coming up to this race and hopefully taking ourselves for some very exciting races, because we also have another championship winning driver here. It's going to be the car number 25 of Robbie Kelly, who was indeed the championship winner for season 6 of our main series here. So who do you think between RK and Plasma, who's going to be the one to claim the win this time around, or is it going to be somebody else?
Well, without really flexing our bias too much in the commentary box, I think it's hard to it's kind of hard to say between the two of them. Obviously, I mean, Jordan has just heaps and heaps and heaps and heaps of experience on this game, on iRacing, on doing like real like professional esports level stuff, and like RK is just a fantastic driver as well, and I think both of them have already shown quite a bit of pace around this track, at least from the practice times that we've been seeing, dipping well into the 1 minute 41. So I think it's definitely going to be 2-horse race between them, and we'll see how the Nissan does, honestly, underneath RK, because it's not like one of the cars that you see super often around here. We have a lot of really nice car variety, which is, I think, also one of the nice things about league racing, is that people just kind of pick whatever they want. We have God's strongest soldier, who's actually driving a Ryder on this race today and in this series. So good luck to them, and we'll see how the machinery lines up, and that's. It could go either way. I could not make a prediction right now. For this race in particular, it's been looking like Jordan's had a little bit of an advantage, but that all comes down to how you perform in qualifying.
Absolutely, indeed. And there are still quite a few other pro drivers around this track who will be able to challenge both Jordan Johnson and Robbie Kelly for this classification. And speaking of classifications, we do have some updates from the last time around we did our GT3 mainline series, because we now have an additional class that's going to be in between the pro and the silver classic that we used to have. So nowadays our drivers are going to be split into 4 different classes, excluding nationals. There's going to be pro drivers. These are going to be exclusively drivers who have previously been able to win championships here at our Premier mainline series. After that, there's going to be our gold drivers. They're going to be the top of they're going to be very competitive, very fast, and I would not be surprised to see these gold drivers also scrapping for the same positions with the pro drivers. But then beyond the gold drivers, we're going to be having our silvers and then our AM drivers here. So this is going to be the advantage for everybody, where no matter what class you are, no matter how fast or slow you are, you're going to be fighting for points. You're going to be fighting for your own chance at a title. Whereas in the previous season, we might have an issue where the top dogs usually ran away with it. You didn't really have any realistic chance of a victory.
Yeah, I really like this change, honestly, because I think we've had sort of a thing for a while here at Simufur where we've had so many drivers join. We're kind of suffering from success here at Simufur. We've had so many drivers join who have just been like really talented right out of the gate. Just like instantly, getting into AM, or like immediately getting promoted to silver in some cases, and then like performing really well in there, and like absolutely justifying a deserved bump up to the big leagues in the pro class. But I think with all of the drivers that have been sort of like going up in there, we've kind of had not as much of a delineation between the drivers who are really quick and deserve to be competing for overall standings, and just the absolute aliens, your RKs and your Jordans and the drivers who are coming out and competing for wins. So for those drivers, it's for the ones that are quick but not that quick, it's easy to see how they might get discouraged, or that they don't really have as much of an opportunity on any given day to collect some hardware. So I think it's a really good change, and I think it's going to be something that we're going to want to keep track of, just in terms of where those positions shake out, and potentially if we have any Imola specialists here today, which I mean we've already seen, like Ares just put in a pretty fantastic time here, is running 9th in practice right now. So if we see anybody who is just really quick around this track, who knows? There's anything could happen on race day.
Absolutely, indeed. And now we have our practice session finally concluded with Jordan Johnson quite predictably getting the top time of the board here at the very last seconds of the session here. Now it's going to be switching over to our qualifying any second now. And there's going to be, again, a split of our drivers here at this qualifying because there's going to be the usual AM and Nationals first doing their qualifying for the first 10 minutes, followed by the Silver drivers for the next 10 minutes. And at the very end, there's going to be the Pro and Gold drivers at the very end for the last 10 minutes. So overall, 30 minutes of qualifying, and again, everybody's going to be having a shot on the track to get the top time on the board here. But now it's going to be first the AM drivers here. So do you have any expectations on how the qualifying is going to be going for our AM drivers here? Because I know Imola's going to be quite a challenging track with all the high-speed corners and the chicanes.
Yeah, that's really it. And honestly, this is one of those tracks where having the split qualifying is just completely necessary, especially since we have, oh god, we have 38 drivers on track right now. So it would be nearly impossible for 38 drivers to all go out on a tight, twisty track like this. And it's not a very long lap either, relatively. So it would be really hard for them to find the clear air that they need to get a clean qualifying lap, and that would be mostly what qualifying would end up being about. But thankfully, I mean, we since we're splitting up the classes a little bit, we have a little bit more room to get some clear air. In terms of who we're seeing on top, I mean, it's kind of hard to tell. We have so many, I think our AM class in the last couple of seasons that we have has been one of the most competitive that we've had, just in terms of times. We've seen likes of Wolfen being really fast. We've seen Frey being really fast. So we'll see what happens. I mean, there's practice is practice and qualifying is qualifying. It's a very obvious thing to say, but I think when the pressure is on and you only have those 5 or 6 good laps, really, if you're lucky, to set the time that you need, the pressure can come down on folks. So we'll have to see.
Absolutely, for sure. And one thing I'm going to be paying attention to myself is going to be what the pole time is going to be in the end, not just in the Pro class or in the Gold class, but overall, because I also had another look through our old statistics, especially for the first race we had all the way back 5 years ago. And I checked the pole time done by Fox back in the day. It ended up being a 41.9. So I'm going to be very curious to see if, I'm pretty sure that the Pro drivers are going to be beating that time, but if there's going to be similar times coming from our Gold drivers or our Silver drivers even, looking at those times.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. I mean, I think we've already had a couple of 41.8s and 41.7s in our practice so far. So yeah, would not be surprised at all. And in fact, I'm kind of expecting it to be broken at this point. But also, 5 years ago, it's kind of a different game. Even 3 years ago, the last time that we ran this track in October, it's a different game at this point. There's been several physics updates. We've had new cars since then. We've had the 296, which there are a couple on track today. The Porsche 992s. But back when the last time we ran this track, I think it was the 991 was the most up-to-date Porsche machinery that we had available to us. And so I think just from that point of view, I think the physics updates that have come with the game as we see Sat going on to the first lap here in the Huracan Evo 2, which is again one of those cars that's been added since then. So just heading down the main straight here. This is kind of a weird braking zone into turn 1. You're kind of going around the left-hand turn here, and then you're looking for that access road there on the right, down all the way to second. Running it over as much of those sausage curbs as you dare. It'll really upset the car if you go too much on it. But you want to be able to run over those to get the best lap time. And then we have to run to the second chicane, which is Villeneuve. You want to brake right here, just quick dab on the brakes down to 4th, and then harder on the brakes when you get in. cut to the apex and then up to third, get all the way over to the right side of the track for the braking zone into the hairpin, and really, really patient on the throttle around here. It feels like an eternity and a half when you're in it. And then we're going up the hill. We're on our way up to Piratella, which is a big test of the high-speed downforce. You're looking for that 50 board on the right, down to third, run it as much over that curve as you dare. Make sure you don't run too wide on the exit. We're going to see a lot of lap times invalidated probably that are running too wide there. And then into Aqua Minerale, probably the most technical part of the racetrack here. It's one of those decreasing radius braking zones there, and it looks like Sadcat handled that pretty well. And then we're back up the hill one more time, up to the Variante Alta, our last chicane, and the slowest speed one. You want to really run it over these curves as much as you can. The track limits are pretty forgiving on this game, so you can basically just kind of straight line it over those for the fastest time. And now we're going back down the hill, and we are ducking under the banner here into the braking zone to the first Ravazza, looking for that 100 board, down to second, and running it over that curve there on the right, as much over there as you can without running into the sand. Same thing here, and just trying to get the best exit you can onto the straight. And it looks like Sadcat honestly handled that lap pretty well. Didn't see any, huge major mistakes. There's obviously a couple of parts where you can use a little bit more of the racetrack, but that's just having the confidence in the car underneath you. And that ended up being not a valid lap time. That might have been a little bit too wide on Ravazza, like we said, or Piratella, like we said. But Fred goes ahead and sets a 44.1, which is going to be our very first benchmark here, and I will expect that to go down within this session.
Yeah, it's probably going to be Piratella and Aqua Minerale where people are going to be mostly invalidating their lap times here, which indeed ended up happening for Sadcat here. But we do have our first times on the board. It's going to be an opening time of 1:44.1 from the blue driver of Fry Fireball here in their Aston Martin GT3 car. And going a little bit back on those cars we had in the previous championship, in the previous round, all the way back in season 4, we actually did not even have the modern Ferraris in the track here. We only had the Ferrari 488 back then, and we didn't have the 992 either. We didn't have the Mustang. There's quite a few missing cars here. And in fact, we do have one of those Ferrari 488 still on the grid here. That's going to be the car of Adam Norlin. Currently here, not having a valid time on the board here, but quite an interesting choice to still bring the older generation of Ferrari for the series.
Honestly, shoutouts. I love it. I just love how the card looks, honestly. Say what you will about the 296 in terms of, the way that you can really run that thing over curbs in a way that it might be a little bit harder for this particular model, but I just love those headlights. I love those round tail lights, and I will never forgive Ferrari for getting rid of them.
It is quite a shame indeed, because I did also do my very first seasons in the Ferrari 488 myself. I ended up, in fact, winning the second season of the AM Championship in the very same car here, so I'm very happy to see this car again. And I personally would want to see more of that for it in our, perhaps like another Boomer Cup series that we do every once in a while here, and that's also always been my bread and butter car here. And in terms of other cars, I don't see any of those really older generation cars here. But we do have finally an updated time from Sadcat, who was finally able to get an updated time on the board. That's going to be a 1:42.5. So times are going to be falling down. We're already getting quite close to that 41.9 threshold from our AM drivers already. That's already quite impressive.
Yeah, and not only is Sadcat putting in that 42.5, but they're also over half a second up on that time. So actually, they might have a chance to get that 41 right here and now. We'll see what happens the next time that they cross the line. But the Delta looks really, really good right now. Just heading through Sector 3 at the moment, it looks like. Just getting into the chicane here, which can be a place where you can lose a lot of that lap time, but didn't end up losing it. And it looks like that might have been an invalidated lap. So they're going to have to bail out of it, unfortunately. That did look like it was going to be a really, really good time. But again, you want to try to straight line it over that chicane as much as you can. I was saying that the track limits are pretty forgiving, and they are, but they can still get you. If you having all four wheels off of there and you're just kind of completely ignoring it, that's something that the game won't allow.
Yeah, there's also going to be quite a big difference on the cars on how well they can tackle the curbs around the track here. The sausage curbs around these chicanes, as you can see, Fabio saw now tackling the first Variante Tamburello here. They are quite menacing if your car is not strapped for it. I know for a fact the Ferraris or the McLarens, they do not like those curbs at all, and they might easily just unsettle your car, even spin you around, whereas something like the Lexus here as we see on this track here, they can just slide over those things like they're nothing, and that's going to be quite an advantage for them in the qualifying times here. But we'll see if there's going to be like one of those big beefy cars who will eventually end up taking the top spot on our times.
I mean, I love the Lexus pick here, honestly, not just because of the way it sounds, because it's a great sounding car, but honestly, just having like the front engine machinery here and just being able to run it right over those sausage curbs, I think that's going to be a really big factor in race pace, especially where, you know, those mid-engine cars, they're not going to be running it over the sausage curbs the way that you've seen them do it in qualifying, because here, you know, they're trying to get the fastest time, and they don't really, you know, care so much if they spin, they can just reset to the pits and try again. But we can't do that in the race, so they're probably going to take it a lot more careful, and especially Adam here in the 488 probably going to be. You can already see the car just bouncing over those two big curbs there in the Variante Alta. So I honestly really like the Lexus pick here. I think it might be one of the most picked cars in this series right now as it stands, and that was really surprising to me, considering that it's one of those boomer cars that we were talking about. But I love it, and we'll see if one ends up on the front row or near the front row of the grid come the end of qualifying time.
Well, we'll have to see about that, but currently the top time on the AM classification is indeed held by a Lexus. It's going to be a 142.3 of Sierra Thomas, who is currently in the pits. I feel like they're going to be not done with their times because we only have 40 seconds left on our AM drivers, and it's going to be time for our silver drivers to have their turn here. And Adam Norling is still on a flying lap. We're trying to get an improvement on their lap times here. We also see some improvements from... that's going to be Manuel Benavides, one of our newer drivers here on the track, and there's also going to be some improvements from Fabio Sa. I think Fry Firebody is also quite on the cusp of getting some improvements on their lap times too. But looking at the times overall, there is quite a few Lexuses. No, that sounds awful. I apologize for that. But yeah, I think the main contributor for why the Lexus is now a very prominent car in this season is going to be the last time we had our GT3 Season 6 championship, where the Lexus ended up being quite dominant throughout all of the races here with their good straight line speed and quite average handling. And it's just mostly about the straight line speed that seems to really make a difference in these fast sections, fast tracks.
Yeah, I wouldn't be remotely surprised at all. And so Sierra's back in the pits, so that's not going to be another time for them. Big bump for Adam there over the Variante Alta, so that's probably going to be the end of their particular lap time. Fry is actually pretty high up, about a half a second up on their last lap, so that would be around a 43 flat or maybe a high 42 if they were to finish like this, which would put them up on about the 4th place spot on the grid. Ket unfortunately doesn't look like they were able to get around or actually they were. That's going to be a 42-1, so that's right on the cusp of those 41s like we were talking about, but that's going to be provisional pole for Sad Cat. We'll see if Fry has anything to say about that. It would have to be absolutely monumental. It would have to gain like at least half a second just in that last corner alone. But that's going to be Fry over the line. That's probably going to be a very good improvement for them. And indeed it is. They're up to 4th, and we are waiting on a couple more laps here. There's one from Wolfen, which looks like Wolfen's backed out of it. Looks like we have still one more car on track, maybe, looking for some marginal improvements. That's going to be Fabio going through Piratella right now, so hopefully won't run into any of the silvers that are starting their out laps right now. And I think they're going to be able to get this in. But as it stands, and unless anything changes, it's going to be Sadcat on Am pole, followed by Sierra very closely behind. So that's going to be a fun battle to watch in the race between those two.
It is quite impressive how even the AM drivers are quite close to the cusp of getting those 141 lap times there that we had all the way back in the first year of our Simulafur seasons. Though you have to keep in mind that back in the day, the cars were generally just slower. The bob was different, the balancing was different, and the physics in themselves were different. So while it is quite impressive that these cars are able to get so close to those 41 thresholds here, I think if the same cars would have done that again in like 5 years ago, they would not have been able to get those same times. And now we can see Fabio Sol backing out that lap, and that's going to be the end of our AM qualifying with Sat Ket getting that 142.1 lap time. So congratulations on them on getting that lap time. And that's going to be time for our silver drivers to do their runs here. We do see Vex now being one of the first cars on the track to get on the car here. And they seem to be having a pretty good lap time already here. We don't quite see what their delta is going to be, but from what I remember seeing Vex's time in the practice session, so I remember them being able to break that 141 lap time Cosby. So we'll see if they can break that again this time around.
Yeah, I wouldn't be remotely surprised. I think Vex is one of our top runners in silver. Usually puts in is one of those drivers that just sort of like runs practice laps over and over again, and just hits the track and knows exactly what they're doing around here. Seems very, very familiar, very at home here, and you can see even the difference between the way that the silver drivers are attacking the racetrack compared to the AM drivers. There's a lot more confidence in it, using a lot more of the racetrack. And honestly, kind of going back a little bit to our conversation about the lap times compared to what it was a couple of years ago, I think a fairly underrated aspect of that as well is that I think just all of our drivers have kind of gotten faster. We've had a lot of really talented drivers joining over those sort of couple of years between then and now. Vex being one of them for sure. But I think there's something to be said there about just like the bar has kind of been raised for everyone really, and you can see how much that BMW is able to just like roll over there, and so that is going to be actually wasn't quite good enough for to beat out Satket so far on that first lap, but that's only the first lap, and we're already seeing over a half a second improvement in Vex's current lap time, so we'll expect those times to tumble.
It does take like a lap or two for the tires to properly warm up to their window to get those optimal lap times here. Indeed, Vex's first lap time was only enough for 4th position overall here with 3 more AM drivers ahead of them. But looking at their lap time so far, they're already 7/10 up on their previous delta. There seems to be the Mercedes of, I'm not quite sure who. It's going to be the Mercedes. I think it's going to be the Mercedes of Sarah right ahead of them. Might cause some issues with traffic, but I'm not going to keep an eye on that currently. They are looking to be a purple sector 3 already on the lap time here, so I think we might see a couple more purple sectors coming around on the final Variante Alta chicane here. Now a big dive down into the 2 Rivazzas here. And that Mercedes seems to be slowing down quite a lot. Not sure if they are on a valid lap of their own, but I don't think it's going to be bothering the Blue E driver of Vex too far. It's going to be the final 2 corners. Get that apex cut nice and sharp here with our final turn around the Rivazza corner here. And now they've launched down the main straight. They might even get a bit of a slipstream from the Mercedes ahead, helping them to get that first lap down here. So we'll watch very closely as they get across the finish line here. The first start-finish straight is quite late on this track here, so we're going to be seeing indeed a 141.975, the first 41 of our session.
There we go. They're talking about raising the bar. That's our silver time right now, and I honestly expect that to be beaten as the session continues to go on. But I believe that looks like Sarah in front in the AMG, and so I mean we'll see if they end up holding up Vex any. It looks like that might already be happening, honestly. And this is kind of part of the game of qualifying. You kind of have to try to create a little bit of a gap for yourself, especially if you know that you're going to be one of the faster drivers in the session. And that's going to be Sarah a little bit in the grass there. So it looks like Vex has backed off of that lap at this point, and is going to create a little bit more of a gap so that they can try again.
We do have regulations here on our Simulafur series where you are not allowed to overtake another car if the car ahead is on a valid lap, which Sarah is at the moment here, which is the reason why Vex ended up backing out. And in general, it is not really a good idea to try scrapping other drivers in a qualifying session to get for the track position here, because that often usually costs both you and the other driver lap time that you would need, because there's not quite much time as we see Sarah going quite deep. It's going to be a hit in the wall here on the exit of Variante Alta. I think they may have gone a little bit upset on the Variante Alta chicane. Yeah. So as you can see, even with the Mercedes with a very good suspension that can take those curves, you can't just assault them as easily.
Yeah, no, it's not as easy as it sounds. You do have to give it a little bit of a squirt of the throttle to make sure that the car sort of stays stabilized over that, especially when you're in these mid-engine machines who really you can see him just absolutely just bouncing up and down on those curves there going through the Tamburello chicane. So I think it's definitely going to be the Italian cars, the Ferraris and the Lamborghinis that are going to be struggling a little bit more over those compared to the other ones, and that's sort of the name of the game. It's they've gotten rid of those in real life. They've reprofiled a lot of the curving around here and added some sand traps where they don't appear in this version of the racetrack. But I would say, like, in terms of like the sort of like the sort of snapshot in time of like when this track looked like this is probably around like sort of the late 2010s, around there. So drivers in real life don't have to contend with those anymore. Unfortunately, our drivers here in ACC, they still do, and that's part of driving and being fast at Imola.
I do have some morbid curiosity to see how an F1 car would be able to tackle those kinds of sausage curves, but thankfully the modern F1 cars don't have to worry about that anymore with the new reprofile of the track here. Going back on our qualifying results here, we do see quite a good improvement from Aura's Focus, a 4/10th improvement as they go around that final turn 18 corner onto the main straight, unleashing the power of that V10 Lamborghini engine. It's not going to be enough of an improvement to get into the top position here, but we're going to be at least a small improvement going around into 4th place with a 42.5, which is immediately answered by Blade, with one of our OG drivers here getting another 42.3. But still, with several cars and only a minute left on our lap time here, we still have Sadkit and Sierra Thomas holding 2nd and 3rd in the times overall, beating several silvers. That is quite impressive.
Yeah, 10 minutes goes by fast, If you can't get the lap in, then you can't get the lap in. It doesn't matter if you're faster, and that's RS taking a little bit too much of the sausage there, and that was definitely a little too much, and earns them a trip into the gravel trap. So that's going to be the end of their qualifying. They're not going to be able to get around for another lap. Here we have Juan Manuel Verón, who is making their way around the last bit of the racetrack here up into Sector 3 on a really big improvement right now. It's 7.5 tenths at the moment. That would put them well into the probably the low 44s, maybe the high 43s. So that would be a couple places up. It would get them in front of Wolfen. So that would be a decent position for them to start in. But definitely, like, when it comes down to it, I think it's probably going to be a pretty comfortable pole here for Vex, who is still on a lap right at this moment, is on a marginal improvement, actually, is up about maybe another 10th or 2. So we'll see if that turns into an even faster lap time that could potentially put them in front of a lot of pro drivers. But it's probably going to be that's probably going to be it, because I don't think any faster or any of the drivers that would be contending for silver pole are on track at the moment. They're in the pits or they've completed their runs.
We do see some improvements here on the track from Koen Manho, for instance, here on another 0.6 of a second improvement going down onto the final corners here towards Rebatas again here. But it is a surprisingly big mix of silvers and AMs holding these lap times here so far. So that is going to be quite interesting in the race, especially because while these drivers are going to be competing in the overall classification for points, they are also competing in their own silver and AM classes. Overall, we're going to be watching now Koen going over the finish line with a pretty substantial 0.8 of a second improvement. That's going to be giving them quite a big bump in the lap times in the position. That's going to be up in P16 in the end. But yes, now that there's going to be time for our gold drivers to have their turn on the track here, going to be having a big reminder that they are going to be competing on their own points. But now that they're going to be qualifying in between AM drivers and silver drivers, that's going to be making it a bit of a challenge on the actual race times, to see if they're going to be like getting around those lower class drivers that they're not directly competing in with points.
Yeah, for sure. We got a pretty big train of cars here coming down into Sector 3, so they're probably going to have to space out a little bit more here. And you see them wiggling around trying to get temperature into those tires, so they're going to have to make some sort of a gap here and make sure that they can get it. And this is going to be Damon here going on to the first flying lap of the gold and pro drivers. And honestly, car class, it's just the only thing that matters is that it changes what color your number plate is. you know, if you're an AM driver and you're feeling yourself around Imola today, and you're feeling like you can take the fight to some pro drivers, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see some battling between the classes here, even though, you know, it doesn't really matter so much for the lower ranked drivers, as we see Arcade there, I think, going a little bit wide at the exit of the Villeneuve chicane there. I'd love to see them try to take the fight. I think it's going to make for some really interesting stuff, and especially because we've seen our AMs and silvers just qualifying so well around here, you know, already into the 41s, which is considered, you know, that's a really, really good time. So I'm really excited to see it, and I think we're going to get some nice, like, interclass battles here. It's going to make for an interesting race.
Yeah, the interclass battles are going to be interesting for us to watch, but I don't think that the drivers are going to be agreeing quite a lot, especially if you are a higher class driver, a gold driver, stuck behind a silver driver, then that's going to be making you quite frustrated and annoyed, because you know the car ahead, you're not fighting them for points, whereas the gold drivers ahead, you are competing them with the points here, so that might end up in some frustration trying to get around them if the car ahead is, I mean, the car ahead is going to be well within their right to keep their position if they are on the same lap as all here, but I think some drivers might opt to just back out, let the higher class car behind them let by here so they can focus on their own racing, because if they both get caught up in these scraps for too long, that's just going to cost both of them a lot of time. And now we're going to be seeing Azure Goat opening up our lap times with a 42.0, so not quite enough to break that 141 barrier. Vex is still holding on the provisional pole position overall, but we're going to be seeing those times tumbling down pretty soon.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a statement here from actually not the lap time that I actually would expect from Jordan. That's a 42.1, but obviously those are going to go down as the session goes on. That's going to be a new fastest lap for Aiden. That's going to be a 41.8. So times are definitely going down, and honestly, 41.8. There's not a lot of difference between that and sort of where we've seen the floor of our lap times in practice so far. So it's going to be really, really tough for pole here, and honestly, we might have a new contender. We'll see how Jordan's able to get on with it. Jordan's already a couple tenths down from their first attempt. Azure, same thing, couple tenths down from their first attempt. Actually, Azure's on for like a 41.6 if they were to put this lap together. So yeah, the times are going to just continue to tumble, especially with the track getting faster and faster. More and more rubber being laid down from all of the cars that have run on it previously, and so we're getting sort of up to those optimum grip levels that are going to unlock the fastest times for these drivers. And you can see Newt taking absolutely every inch of the racetrack there at the entrance to Piratella, and then a little bit more.
Yeah, it's going to be quite interesting to see who's going to be qualifying where in this race. And unfortunately, our live timing is not going to be able to show who of these pro drivers are going to be platinum drivers or our gold drivers here. So I'm going to have a quick rundown of the drivers who are going to be in the pro class. There's going to be Robbie Kelly and Jordan Johnson that we already talked about earlier, who were the previous championship winners. And we actually see Robbie Kelly just getting a 41.590 in that Nissan GT3 2018. Good stuff from them. We're going to be probably seeing some even faster times here. But alongside of Robbie Kelly and Jordan Johnson, there's also going to be Damien Warham, our GT4 championship winner, probably a couple of times in a row, actually. And joining them, there's going to be the drivers Lily Armstrong and Luke Packer, who are not quite yet at the top times of the board here, but normally it's going to be those 5 drivers who are going to be theoretically in contention for the win, unless there's going to be some gold drivers who are going to be thinking otherwise.
I'm actually kind of amazed at how close the times are at this point, because it looks like between first and 7th place, basically, or 8th place, around where Sadcat's time is, which honestly, that time looks more and more impressive the more times that we see piling in here, because you know, the pros are sort of going back and forth between being in front of them, being behind them. So that was a really, really good time to put them up there in the top 10. We'll see how that affects the race here. But yeah, I'm really, really impressed by how close the times are around here. It's less than half a second between first and 5th here.
Very impressive times indeed, and we actually also see Sierra Thomas still only about a second off from the current pole time as well, so another good result from our silver and AM drivers here. And we're going to be also seeing a big fan improvement from Sosh Dragon, one of our recent gold division promotees, because they were indeed running in contention for victory in the previous season's silver championship. In the end, they did not win that. That championship ended up going to Oily Rags. I don't think they're going to be here on this grid tonight, but it looks like Sosh is still very much hungry for more wins, more championship, more podiums, because they're going to be going across the finish line. It's going to be a small improvement on the lap time. That's going to be a 40... Actually, that's just how update. It's going to be 42 flat, so right on the cusp of getting those 41s here. But currently looking at our time, so we have already 9 drivers got to be under that 42 limit here. So if all of these drivers are going to be here on that first year, this would have been a very, very, very competitive race for sure.
Yeah, I almost feel like that time from Sosh is like, I don't know if the 42 tells the whole story, because that was a purple sector 1 on that lap. And, you know, being the leading Mustang representation at this point, one of the brand new cars that we've had, one of the most recent cars that's been added to this game, if not the most recent. Just goes to show, you know, being able to have the front engine, you know, top speed going down the main straight, plus having the stability to be able to really run it over those curves in Sector 1, it's turned into a purple sector time. So I wouldn't be surprised if that, you know, continues to fall as the times go on, and it should create some interesting dynamics in the race. Honestly, if we start seeing similar things from some of the other front engine machinery on the track. Lead time, of course, right now is Jordan in that Audi, which is more mid-engined and is kind of notorious in this game for being really hard to control over those bumps, being very unstable, but also being very fast if you can unlock the time from it. And you know, Damon there making a statement with that 41.3 in the McLaren, and then another one, a 41.2 from Jordan. So that it's going to be trading back and forth probably to the checkered flag here.
Yeah, but we're going to be watching on board with Parker also getting a whole second of lap time improvement on their lap time. That's going to be then in P2 overall. That is a very impressive driver time from the Digan Racing driver here. Only a couple of tenths, actually less than a tenth of Jordan Johnson's current provisional pole of 41.2. And I saw a brief flash of a 1.3 second improvement from the red McLaren 720S here. So even though Parker is currently only competing in the gold class here, they are very much in contention for pole position. That is quite impressive.
Well, I think they've gone back to the pits at this point, and you know, I probably just like that's my whole shot at this point, you know. And it was an incredible lap, and I, crossing my fingers, don't know if we're gonna get a 40 before the end of this session. It looks like a couple of drivers are still on improvements here, but it looks like Aiden down in 8th after that really strong time at the start of the session has invalidated their last one. So this is gonna be it for them. We're seeing Damon here coming around on their final lap. It's either going to be a little bit marginal, and that wasn't the best exit off of the last one, so they're going to go ahead and pull it in. So it's looking like Jordan's pretty safe for pull at this point, coming around the last Fatsa, and it's going to be close. It's going to be close. See if it's a if it's a 40-second lap time. It is still an improvement, but I think they lost quite a bit of time in that last little bit. They have a little bit of a toe here. It's going to be a 1.25 instead. So still an incredibly impressive lap time. I think it would have been absolutely ludicrous to see a 40 around here, but you know, with these drivers on the track right now, you can't really rule anything out. They're just so quick.
Absolutely, indeed. And now we're going to be funny coming to the end of our qualifying here with our last of our drivers here crossing the finish line. It's going to be now Alexander van der Wood in their blue Lexus RCF car here going across the finish line. It's going to be another improvement of a 41.9. Again, another sub 42 lap time here. So looking at our times so far, we have 14 drivers getting a sub 42 lap time here. So an incredibly competitive field. And everyone from... I mean, incredibly to see like 14 drivers, 14 cars within a second of each other here on the top end of the field here. So it's going to be for sure a very, very competitive race stop, which is probably going to be causing quite a lot of chaos. So now that our qualifying is going to be wrapped up, it's going to be indeed Jordan Johnson of the Victoria's Secret Audi R8 getting their pole position. So congratulations to them. But who do you think that is there going to be a big pileup, a big carnage on lap 1, on turn 1, as we have quite infamously familiar with in this track?
I mean, listen, it is it's a tight track. It's really hard to keep it, especially when you're heading two by two down into turn one, and it's not like you have a whole lot of time to brake anyway. It's still a pretty, like, what I would consider sort of a mid-speed corner in these cars. You're still in third gear, kind of going around it. So I think there's probably a pretty decent chance that we at least some rubbing and bumping, but we'll see what happens. The story of this race, to me, I think, is honestly Sad Cat, like in 17th, but still within a second of our pole time. And that just goes to show not only how close the qualifying times have been, but also just like what Sad Cat is able to get out of that car. Like they've beaten every single silver driver except for Vex, who is the pole sitter for silver and is mixing it up there with the pros. So it's going to be really, really fun to see where they end up here. And honestly, if there's a big crash in front and they're able to avoid it, they're able to avoid the damage and get through okay, could be on for a really, really good position here. Could be on for a top 10. We'll see what happens.
For sure, for sure. Now, I also need to make a small correction about our pro classification. Indeed, in the pro class, there's always going to be the drivers who have previously won our main series championships in that class. They're going to be our special platinum class. But alongside those drivers, there's also going to be some other drivers we also consider to be quite fast and almost up in that cusp of being able to get those potential race winning times here. But now we're going to be going up on our final grid walk here with only a couple minutes left to go here. So let's tune in back onto our main grid here and have a walk down to our grid. I just need to make sure we have our timing sheets working. We have a couple of technical difficulties, so one sec. There we go. So starting from at the very beginning, we have indeed Jordan Johnson, our not Tegan Racing, a Victoria's Secret car here. Why is this not working? There we go. This has got to be working here. Apologies for the technical difficulties. Starting from the beginning, there's going to be Jordan Johnson, car number 112 of the Victoria's Secret car here, starting on the pole position. It's joined by Parker Olsen, currently sitting in P2. Quite an impressive driver from the Tegan Racing driver here. Starting up in P3 on the second grid, there's going to be Damon Wareham in the Ridge Racer Pros here, Ridge Racing Project cars here in the 765 McLaren, joined along by the other Tegan Racing driver of Robbie Kelly, starting in P4. On the third row, we have the first Cabal driver of Luke Packer, an impressive 3/10 of the pole time here in their first Lexus of the grid here, joined along by another Lexus of Athena Leclerc, sitting up in P6. Behind them, there's going to be the car of Adrian Newton, the first Bluey driver of our grid here in their nice and shiny McLaren 720S, joined alongside by Nicholas Zahn, also known as Ven, in another Lexus car. A very Lexus-oriented grid here at the top 10. Joining alongside there on the next row is going to be Lily Armstrong's Porsche 992, the first Porsche of our grid here, again followed by another Lexus of Aiden Larson of the Aiden Graphics team, one of our newer teams on the grid here, a solo entry. And then outside of the top 10, we have our first P11 car. It's going to be the Nissan GTR of Saber Kitsune. Good time from them as well. Joined up alongside by Alexander van der Wood in P12 with the other Lexus. Our first silver driver of the grid with a monstrous lap time. It's going to be the BMW M4 of Vex, another Bluey driver here. Congratulations to them. Joined up alongside by the Porsche 992 of Vossi Tigris, another Tegan Racing driver here. Coming up in P15, there's going to be another RRP car of Sauce Dragon, our first Mustang, one of the few Mustangs of our grid here, joined by another fellow Mustang driver of Philippe Beckevold, another Cabal driver here, currently sitting in P16. First AM driver and pole sitter Sad Cat is starting out in P17, joined alongside by another AM driver of Sierra Thomas in yet another Lexus here. So indeed, there's quite a few Lexi here in this race so far. Joined up alongside on the next spot, there's going to be Blade Wolf in yet again another Audi, not an Audi, but an Aston Martin R8. There was actually one time Blade Wolf drove with an Audi, but this time it's always going to be their Aston Martin V8 Vantage, a classic for them. Up in P20, there's going to be the car of Horace Volpes in their first Lamborghini of our grid here, joined up alongside the Electroshock's BMW N4 in P21. There's going to be our first Escargot driver, the only Escargot driver of Quick de Vries, quite similar to Nick de Vries in that respect, starting up in P22, joined up alongside by the OG Ferrari 488, a beautiful car of Adam Norhele in P24. continuing on our AM driver, there's going to be Fry Fireblood starting up in P24 with our first national drivers, Fabio Sol in P25. We have quite a few national drivers here on this grid here who will not be scoring points here, but they're going to be racing along here on this track here. We already see here these cars roaring up, so we're going to have to go a little bit faster here. So we're going to be starting up with P26 of the first Honda of Skylar Vixen, and it's going to be down into P27. There's going to be the Mercedes AMG of Sarah Emberson. Up in P28, there's going to be another Porsche of Jesper Swingley in that blender missing texture car here. Maybe one day they will finally get that texture working there. But for now, we're going to hope they will be able to have a good race regardless. Up in P29, there's going to be the McLaren 720S of Zephyr in the RRP team, joined up alongside by Wolfit EP in P30 in their BMW M4. Still driving that M4 after quite a few years, so good consistency from them. Got up in P31, we have JPEG Foxes, our one New Zealandish driver, joined up by a Netherlands, Dutch, I guess is the better word, of Koen van Hove in the 404 Bentley, the only Bentley of this grid so far. In P33, we have Juan Manuel Verone with our classic Porsche 992, not 911, even though their car number is 911, joined up alongside by another new car on our entry of Manuel Benavides with the Tokyo Ghosts team. In P35, we have Shay Khan in another Ford Mustang of the grid, joined up alongside by Thomas Schwartz in the Honda NSX, another Honda of our grid here. And last in place, it's going to be Mateusz Lewandowski. Apologize if I spelled that name wrong here, in the Ferrari 296 here on the last spot here. So 37 cars at a very small track. It's probably going to be quite an exciting race for sure.
All right, take a breath, Denak. Honestly, I think it's really funny that there's only 2 Ferraris on this grid, because and one of them is a 488. I feel like the 296 is usually a really popular pick. It's usually one of the quicker cars, but nobody opting for it here. And like you said, it's kind of a story of the Lexuses here. But we have our top 3 are currently being filled by mid-engine cars, so we'll see how that works out for them. As RK has a little bit of ground to make up in this race if they want to get a good result. I know we kind of mentioned at the top of our show that we were expecting RK to be in contention for the win here, but based on the sort of qualifying performance as they go 2x2 here as we get ready to get the green flag, they're going to have to do a little bit of fighting with the 2 McLarens in front if they want to have a chance at it. So it's going to be probably an attacking race here from RK, which we always love to see in the commentary booth, because it's very entertaining as we are going to get the green flag any second here.
It will be very entertaining for sure. We are going to be having quite a late start on this grid here with how late the start-finish straight is on the track here. So we have a couple of minutes to go here. Well, not quite a couple of minutes, more like a couple of handful of seconds here. But it's going to be quite exciting for all of these cars here, just riding up on the limit of their red line here, hoping to just get to that launcher just right on the exact right moment here. We are just a couple of seconds away on our debut race in Season 7. Jordan Johnson on pole, gold driver Luke Parker also on P2. Let's see who's going to be getting the better launch here. Any second now, waiting for the green flag, to go here. It's going to be just a moment. Green flag, go, 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 go. Out. Jordan John's getting a massive launch here, but Luke Packer and Parker Olson and Damon Warren all going to be almost a 3-1 going up into turn 1. It's going to be quite a tight battle here, but it's going to be Jordan Johnson able to hold on to the lead here with Luke Parker also on the outside. Damon Warren also on the side here. There's going to be a side-by-side battle with the 2 McLarens. There's going to be also Robbie Kelly right behind them, also having a massive launch up on this. It's going to be now a side-by-side battle between the 2 cars here going up into turn 3. It's going to be actually Damon Warren. Oh, it's almost contact between the 2 cars here. Another almost contact here with the McLaren and the Nissan GTR here. Oh, quite a good start, but I think everybody made it through just in one piece. Whew.
Amazing that everyone mostly made it through here. There's a couple of yellow triangles on our timing tower here, but that was shades of Max Verstappen in the Imola race this year there into turn 1 from Parker there, just trying to hang it around the outside on Damon as much as they could, and unfortunately had to back out of it. And all of that fighting gave the opportunity to RK behind to take that place, and RK already pulling a gap now and is still just riding on the back of Damon's 720S here. So that was pretty much exactly the start that RK wanted here. And meanwhile, all this fighting has given Jordan quite a gap here, has already pulled about 1.5 seconds on the rest of the field, but that time is going down slightly. We'll see how that evolves throughout the race. But for now, it's going to be a very, very close race for P2 here between these 2.
It's going to be quite exciting indeed. We see a huge gaggle of cars right behind these two top contenders here, with Jordan Johnson able to get away from the field as we kind of expected, but now it's going to be a good opportunity to see how much straight line speed these cars are going to be having here. A small comment about the lack of Ferrari 296s on this grid here. It's going to be their lack of straight line speed here, which has usually been a big thorn on anybody's side here. We're going to be now seeing the car of Adrian Newt being hounded by the Lexus of Nicholas Zahn right on the outside. It's going to be almost on the grass, trying to have a mover up on the outside here, but it's going to be now. Oh, it's going to be contact with another Lexus. I think it's going to be another Cabal Lexus here. It's going to be, oh, it's going to be contact. It's going to be Adrian Newt slammed on their side here, but somehow they were able to turn right back around again here. Quite a lucky incident from the car there.
Got a bit of a bump there from the car behind, just like right on the front fender that managed to actually set them the right way again, so they were able to sort of continue, but definitely lost a handful of places there. So it's going to be a little bit of an uphill battle here for Newt. And honestly, that was one of those incidents where you're just trying to take a little bit too much of that sausage on the inside. It would have been okay if the car didn't get upset over those and just honestly just lost control of the car for just a fraction of a second, and that was enough to sort of plow into the car on the outside there and cause that incident, and that sort of precipitated the further sort of bowling pin effect there as we have a massive pile up into Aqua Minerale here, it looks like, and we have cars in the middle of the track, we have cars off on the grass there, and we're gonna have to watch that back. But it looks like it's going to be our first full course yellow, our code 50 of the race. And honestly, that's probably for the best at this point, because that looked like a hell of an incident.
Yeah, just quite some good timing on that bowling comment here, because it looked like quite a few cars got into a bowling incident in that turn here. Let's see if we can find a replay of what exactly had happened here. Yes, I think I do have that one right here. So let's have a look on what exactly happened as we get our bit of a lag here on our replay feature here, but hopefully it's going to be seeing us soon here. Yeah, it looks like it was the cars of Sostraken and Skylar Vixen here that got a bit of a 2x2 moment into Aqua Minerale, which then spun around. With how many cars they were in close contention here, they all just got spun around and collected quite a few cars here, which did indeed trigger that code 50. So quite unfortunate with how much damage they got from that, but hopefully they will be able to get back in contention after the car here. They are indeed driving, and it's going to be now code 50 again cleared, so we're going to be back into race conditions here, resuming back into a fight here between Nicholas Zahn and Lily Armstrong going up into turn one. It's going to be Nicholas Zahn on the inside, Lily on the outside here. It's still side by side with also the Lexus of Aiden Larson of Alexander Vanderwood. Also, so many Lexus going up into this straight here. It's going to be quite a tight fight going up into the second chicane here. So many Lexus on the field here, and nobody having contact any so far here, but there are so much. You can see another like 4-5 cars in the background as well. There's so many cars in contention. It could be anybody's game at this point who's going to be the top dog after this battle.
Oh, the way that my teeth were clenched all the way through that sector one, like just like going side by side all the way through there. Honestly, there was a moment where I thought they were going to try to take it 3 wide on the exit to Tamburello, and thankfully thought better of it. That's never going to go well for anyone really, as you see the cars concertinaing up here into the braking zone, and that's honestly probably what precipitated the incident before. But what that code yellow managed to do actually was to close up the gap a little bit between Damon and Jordan up in front, so the gap down to less than a second there, and RK has fallen away a little bit from the top two, but still absolutely within striking distance here, as Lily's doing a fantastic job to hold on to this position, has gone up 4 places from their starting grid spots. So it's been a really good race so far, and honestly, from what we've seen from just the respect shown through that whole battle there in that sector, definitely a well-deserved 5th position here for Lily.
Very good stuff indeed. And you can see from that rear mirror, as we see another contact between the two Lexuses. Right behind them, it's going to be with Nicholas Zahn and Aiden Larson here. Oh, that was going to be again. These Lexuses are just out for blood at this point. They have no chill, no calm at all here. Again, it's going to be a big dive up on the inside into the second chicane here. Again, Aiden and Alexander going side by side with more Porsches, more McLarens, more cars behind. They're all just trying to get take advantage of the situation here. Again, it's going to be Aiden and Alexander going side by side through the chicane here, through the hairpin. That's going to be now going to be the cars of Saber, Kitsune, and Vossi. Tigger's also behind it, just hounding all these Lexus here, which is going to be giving a chance for Liddy to get away from this pack here. But you can see that there's so many cars here. There's like, I think 5 up to 10 cars here, all within a second of each other, all just desperately trying to get some positions. As we see another incident happening here in the back. I think it's going to be the cars of Philip Beckevold. I think this was Fabio Sol, another one cars collected here. We do see some damage from that Mustang here, but we see again even more cars here. We see a Lamborghini also behind, and this is going to be the Lamborghini of Orange Swappers here, got shoved around here on the outside here, but everybody's still okay here. But we see even more cars here. I think it's going to be now Philip Beckevold going side by side. I think it's going to be with Fabio going up into the third chicane here. They backed out quite wisely here. We also see another car going up on the grassy on the outside, having to rejoin quite slowly here. But, oh, I'm not going to have any time to breathe with how much action there is happening here.
I don't think I've breathed since like 2 laps ago. You know what they say in NASCAR is that cautions breed cautions, and I feel like that's what we're seeing here. A lot of this field is sort of like bunched up with all of this fighting in front. So everybody's kind of on the Vex train at this point, as we see the Mustang go into the pit lane there to get that damage repaired. We're outside the pit window as it stands right now, so that's not going to count for their mandatory pit stop. We have another about 10 minutes to go before that happens, so they're going to have to stop again for a fresh set of tires and maybe some fuel. It depends on what they decide to do during this sort of repair period, just to like get that damage out of the way. But regardless, it's going to be at least 2 stops for that Mustang at the moment, as we see this fight is really kind of still going on. They've settled down a little bit. They've sort of settled into single file here, which is definitely the fastest way around this racetrack. All this fighting has cost them quite a bit of time to the top 6 here, I would say. But this makes for good commentating for us, as that was a Tokyo drift around Aqua Minerale there. Not exactly what you want to do to the tires, but it looked cool.
It's absolutely big combination from our drivers having the bravery to have a bit of a slide, as we see a bit of a slide from Alexander van der Wood here on the last chicane here, almost losing the car here, but good job keeping them in control here. It seems like everybody has now settled down into their spots here. We do see, I think there's another yellow flag from Adrian Newt at the back here. I do hope we can see what's happening here. Oh, they're pointing the wrong way. I don't think that's where you're supposed to be going, Adrian. That is not where you want to be going here. Let's see if we can catch a replay on what exactly had happened to this car here. I think it's right here, so let's have a little look-see on our replay bar. Again, a bit of a delay on getting the replay generated. Apologies for that, but we should be seeing it here soon. Now, okay, here we can see the McLaren 720S of Adrian coming up into the final chicane here. I'm not quite sure what happened to them, but if we can see from here, having a scent on the inside of... oh, that's a very big scent. I'm not quite sure that was intentional. That looked like they just forgot how to brake into the final last chicane, almost taking out the BMW M4. I think that was electroshock right there. And indeed, they're going to be going back into the pits to repair the damage.
Yeah, I feel like that was probably maybe a little bit of an early break, or earlier than Newt was expecting, and so carrying that much speed, I think Newt realized that they were going to just carry that just right into the back of electroshock there, and decided against it. Ended up just like sort of diving to any part of the racetrack that they could get to that didn't have a car on it, which at that point was just sort of just pointed it into the grass there. So about as good of a decision as you can make as a driver if you're in that situation where you know that you're gonna carry speed and you're going to knock into a car in front of you if you don't do something about it. So Newt ruining their own race, but fortunately not ruining Electroshock's race along with it as well, which that's what you have to do. That's the decisions you have to make.
You can count your blessings on that, and we do see some fighting happening also down in the AM and Silver Grid as well. We can see the car of Quick de Vries here at the back here, now being challenged by the Aston Martin, the fellow Aston Martin of Fry. But going up into the inside on the chicane here. It's going to be a bit of a bounce from both Astons on the chicane here, kind of having a little bit of a rear tap moment from Jesper Swingley's Porsche in the back here. But it's going to be a brave send from Fry, but apologies, to get up into another spot here. We also see the McLaren of, I think that's going to be the McLaren of, I think it's Hope or Sarah up in the back behind them. Well, it's going to be actually them going wide here. I think that's actually not a car on a valid lap. That's a McLaren. I think that's a couple of laps down here. That's why we don't see them in the timing screens here. That's why they're just letting them fly with blue flags waving. But we see also back here in the Am and Silver Grid here, we see quite a lot of cars. They're still less than a second of each other here, so it's only these minor mistakes, a little wide on a track here or a bit of a bounce on the curb here. It's going to be fighting right relets even down here in the back of the or in the mid pack.
Yeah, and we've seen a couple of sends at this point down into the Variante Alta, that chicane at the top of the hill there, and it's a little bit impatient, you know, because you have a better opportunity, like maybe 30 seconds later, down into turn 1 or even into Ravazza if you're feeling spicy. But I think trying to fit 2 cars into Variante Alta, unless you're in go-karts, really, it's just not really a good idea. And you saw just from that incident like how much time both of them lost as Kvik nearly goes into the back of the Bluey car there. So, you know, impatient to get around, I get it, but you have opportunities later on in the lap to get that done, especially if you have the sort of speed difference that we're looking at here. And that's really respectful racing, actually, through Aqua Minerale. And that's a fantastic move from Swingley to get that done around the outside there.
Quite a good move, a brave move on the outside of Aqua Minerale here from Swingley. Good job on then getting that overtake. But let's go back up into the top half of our grid here with Alexander van der Voort still chasing down the other Lexus of Nicholas Zahn right ahead of him. There's going to be, there might be a send happen here into turn 1 here with that slipstream from the Lexus. They're going to be going side by side into that first chicane here. Alexander making a dive up on the inside. Nicholas also having Aiden also having a move on the outside. It's going to be a bit of a bish bash, door bashing moment from the other Lexus. And thankfully they got away fine with there. But yeah, these top drivers have no patience at all, and they're going to be shoving you wider if they have an opportunity to get an overtake out of that.
I mean, they're hungry for track position. That's really what's happening in this group here, is that all of them want to be at the front of this line because they know that the longer that they sit behind here, they're going to be running up their tire temperatures. Their tires are going to be, you know, going off the more that they fight, and you know, they just want to try to find some amount of clear air here where you can set some consistent laps, and that requires, you know, getting around the cars in front of you. And I think at that point, it was Alexander making that move there, and then the car behind sort of wanted to turn that into an opportunity to take that position back, and that was what sort of led to the contact there in the back half of the Tamburello chicane there. But yeah, it's absolutely claws out here for this particular pack, and you know, I don't know if we've seen every possible configuration of these cars running tip to tail with each other, but by the end of this race, maybe we will.
I do love all of these furry comparisons here in this track here with our bunch of our furry racers and drivers here. Also, speaking of our top drivers here, another furry, Jordan Johnson, still is sitting on the pole position here on the lead of the race here with another very dominant 141.580 on their lap time. We also see the car of Damon Wareham right behind them still chasing them down, so I don't think Jordan can quite breathe easy right now and being safe in that they can just get the win here, because you can see right behind them there's also the car of R. Kelly, Robbie Kelly right behind them, ready to pounce on any mistake that the Audi driver might make.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it was up to Jordan, like, they wouldn't be going this fast, because that was a 41.5 in the last lap, and that's almost what he did in qualifying, basically. And you know, if you're trying to, you know, navigate this race as best you can, especially with the tire with the hot track, as we see Aiden making a move there, and these two are still going to be bumping each other down the straight, getting a little bit side by side. Are they going to risk it into Piratella? Not quite. Thought better of it at the end. Definitely, again, an unwise place to send there, although with this group anything is possible. But yeah, I think of it. Oh, there he goes. He just comes back at it a little bit, and Aiden was just had to back off there just a little bit. So, you know, this is costing them time, and I don't know if we're going to see another send into the chicane here. Thankfully not. But yeah, I mean, if it's if it was these 5 cars basically are just torching their tires doing this, and you know, that's probably going to play into their pit strategy, the way that they approach you know, when to come in for their fuel and their tires. So you know, I would imagine that if I was somewhere in the middle or like at the end of this train, I would probably think about pitting as soon as the window opens, just to get out of this group. I just want to stop fighting for a second and get in some clear air and set some lap times. And maybe if they keep fighting in front of me, I can take some positions off of them.
Saber must be feeling quite awkward being caught in this huge Lexus sandwich. There's like 2-3 different Lexus all around them, and Saber is just trying to have their own race getting around all these different multicolored Lexus cars here. But you can still see the cars of Aiden and Nicholas still having a close fight to try to get ahead here. We can see Alexander being able to get away from this pack here, which is, again, that a benefit you get from having clean air and not being caught in this fight here, because you can see the more these 4 cars are catching over each other, stumbling over each other, the more they slow each other down, and that's going to be giving more of an advantage for the cars ahead to just get away with it. As we can see here, Alexander Vandervoort getting away with, again, Aiden Larson trying to have another peek up on the rear bumper of Nicholas Zahn here, going up into the chicane here, into Aqua Minerale. It's going to be a big dive here. No, it's not going to be quite, but they are getting close, almost brushing the rear of that other Lexus, going up into the final chicane here. Let's see if they're going to be getting a slipstream from the other Lexus to have another say in here. It's going to be, again, close here, but not quite enough to make a set happen here. But yeah, the more these cars fight here, the more it's going to be able to, for Alexander, for Lily, for Parker also to just get away. And that's going to be depriving these cars an opportunity to get the win they want.
Yeah, I mean, Alexander's basically already broken away at this point, as we see a new fastest lap from Damon there. That's a 41.5, so that's a statement there. And like, Jordan is absolutely not breaking away. The gap is down to basically less than a second at this point. So we still have a pretty decent fight going on for the lead, but like, you know, just for, you know, context on like sort of the lap times from these drivers, our top 3 or 4 are doing, you know, 42, like mid to low 42s, and everybody in this group basically is doing like high 42s or even 43s on the laps where they're fighting really hard. And some of that is just pace difference, but some of it is also just, you know, the amount of fighting that they're doing. So it seems like they've cooled down a little bit here. I don't think there's any, you know, sort of really tiny gaps between these cars. Aiden's still sort of riding the back of the car in front, but it's, you know, they're not going hammer and tong the way that they were sort of at the beginning of this race, which was fun to watch. But you know, glad they've settled down at this point as Fabio continues around here and actually is very, very close to the back of Vex here. I don't think Vex is going to have to defend into Piratella. Yeah, that would have been a little bit ill-advised, but and it's a little bit wide from Fabio there on the exit, but you can see that Fabio's actually unleashing quite a bit of pace here, so Vex is going to have to keep an eye on the rear view.
Yeah, thankfully things have finally calmed down on the track here, so we have a good chance in the commentary box to have a sigh of relief and breathe for once here. Another fast lap from Damon. We're trying to chase down Jordan Johnson still, but we're going to take a small break from the action on track to have a look back on our incident that I did see on our timing, but I'm not quite sure what happened here. So we're going to be watching the incident from car number 406 of Horas Volbes. I think they had an opportunity, an incident at some point with another car here. We're going to be watching that replay right now. We're going to be seeing then with a couple of other cars around them. That's going to be the cars of Electroshock. I think it's going to be another Lexus. I'm not quite sure which one. That's going to be from the Cabal scene here. We're watching them going around. A bit of an off-track moment here. It's going to be a big punt from the Lexus that caused Horas Volbes to spin around here. So that's probably going to be something to look at by the stewards. As we can see, another going to be a send from Fabio Sol into turn 1 on the inside of Vex here. Vex had a bit of a wiggle and off-track moment here on the grass here, which Fabio Sol immediately took advantage of and just made a good set into turn 1. And that was a pretty good move.
That was a great move, honestly. It was, you know, on the grass there for Vex, and Fabio just immediately capitalized on it, and that's what you have to do as a driver, and especially when you give yourself the opportunity to do that, when you're you know, driving so close and you know, not necessarily going for every single opportunity that you can possibly go for, but still, you know, just taking your time and picking your moments, you get stuff like that, and that was a great capitalization there. That's great racecraft. As going back to this incident here, looks like on the exit of the hairpin, and that's going to be Luke Packer in front of Electroshock running in this group down here. There's a couple more cars here, but they're looking to push up now with that mistake from Vex looking to take advantage and maybe get in the slipstream and try to make some positions happen.
Yeah, it was a pretty good move from Luke Packard to get around on the outside of Electroshock here to get them overtaking here. So well done from them. And now we finally have our pit window open. It's going to be a 20-minute pit window where you're going to be getting fresh tires and fuel on the car here. So we're going to keep watching very closely to see if there are going to be any cars opening up their pit window in their pit stop strategy right away here to see. We can also see quite a bit of damage from Luke Packard. Indeed, they immediately dive into the pits here as soon as they are able to try to get that car fixed and get some fresh boots on the track here. So it's going to be about a 75-second pit stop time loss here. We'll see another car. I think that's going to be the car of Philip Beckevold or Sosh. Actually, that's going to be the car of Sosh Dragon in the pits, I believe, also fixing their damage right away. So with this amount of time lost here, it's going to be quite a long pit stop. So there's going to be definitely a chance for some cars to probably get an undercut on the cars ahead of them with those fresh boots and fresh tires to get behind them.
Yeah, that's the thing about Imola is that it's a fairly short pit road. It's just sort of like right along the start-finish straight there. You sort of enter right where Revetz 2 ends. But the thing that makes the undercut so good here, and especially with the track temperatures that we're seeing today, the benefit of having fresh tires is actually really high as Aiden ducks into the inside of, and that's going to be a little bit too ambitious there. Had to run it way over the curves just to avoid contact there. So Aiden's going to have to try again into Revetz 1 here, it looks like, and Zahn doing a pretty good job defending here, and that's going to be Aiden off into the sand, and I kind of saw that coming a little bit. It was just much too hot on the brakes for Aiden there, so that's going to be a bit of a time loss there. But as I was saying, the pit lane here, it's like fairly short. You lose those 75 seconds. But having those fresh tires is really, really good. And when you're exiting the pit lane here, you're exiting onto the part of the track where all of the cars that are still circulating are going the fastest that they will go. It's right at the end of that straight. So the speed difference is really, really high between as Thomas gets shunted a little bit there by Sosh and has to let a couple cars by before they can safely rejoin. And not letting me finish my thought. But the fact that the speed difference is so high, it makes it so that even if the undercutting car doesn't do quite enough to get in front before the entry line, they can usually still make the pass on the brakes as they are heading into turn 1, and then use their rubber to drive away. So we'll see what happens in terms of the pits and those the lap times on the cars that have already pitted, looking pretty good. So we'll see what happens.
We do have to see that indeed. And I also want to bring up a light to a fact that actually Jordan Johnson has dropped down to 3rd place. And I can see on our incident board here, there's an incident between car number 112 and car number 5 here. So we're going to have to see right away what has happened there. I do believe car number 5 is one of our newer drivers on the track here. So hopefully we can see on the replay what exactly happened to Jordan Johnson to lose that leading position they had earlier here. So I think number 5, yeah, that's going to be the car number 5 of Manuel up ahead of them. And I think there may have been some blue flag incident happening that caused Plasma Jordan Johnson to lose all that time here. It's going to be, it's going to be two of them coming together. Jordan spun around and pointed the wrong way of the track here, almost collecting another Honda there as well before our replay timer caught off here. So Jordan is not going to be happy about the fact that they lost the lead to trying to overtake a lap down car.
Yeah, I just got squeezed by the traffic there. It's a little bit sloppy, but I think you could see on that replay how close Damon was anyway to making that happen. So you could make an argument for that it would have been inevitable at some point, but it's going to be uphill now for Jordan, and it's going to be RK up into the lead of the race with that incident. So they were able to navigate it okay, and managed to take a lead here right in the middle of the pit window, which is kind of exactly when you want that track position. So we'll see what Arcade does here, whether they want to go long and try to eke out a tire gap near the end of the race, try to use the fresh rubber right at the end to make something happen. And it depends on, you know, how much they want to try to fight this. I think there could be, you know, there's an argument to be made for slowing down Jordan as much as you can if you're RK in this position. So I would imagine we could see some pretty heavy defending here in the next couple laps if Jordan's able to catch up.
Yeah, I'm very sure that RK is going to be fully motivated to defend as much as possible, defend like a cheetah against Jordan behind. As we see, I think there's going to be the Honda of Skylar Vixen behind them, just going well off the track here to let the leading cars by here. But I do believe Damon Wareham was still in the fight for the top lead, but I think Damon Wareham has indeed taken an early pit stop, so they are not currently in the lead, but I think they're going to be in a provisional lead by the time that Jordan Johnson and Robbie Kady are going to be finishing their lap time here. We actually do see Jordan Johnson again closing that gap between himself and the Nissan GTR of RK ahead of them. So I think this fight is going to be going very, very lively very soon, unless either of them take the pits.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I could absolutely still see, you know, Damon getting back into this fight as they're fighting through traffic at the moment. Just made a pass on Sarah Emberson for P18, and we'll be tracking those lap times very carefully as we see if they're able to get back in this fight again. You know, they were really close to Jordan when all of that popped off with the lap traffic there. As you can see, Jordan themselves is actually very close to RK now at this point. I imagine they'll probably be in striking distance either on this lap or the next one. But the strategy is going to be really interesting, and if these two end up fighting a lot, it brings Damon back into the picture. So I think we got a legitimate, you know, three-way battle for the lead here. I don't really know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it is indeed quite unfortunate that lap traffic ended up costing quite a lot of time to Jordan Johnson, but that's going to be making for a lot more exciting action for us in the commentary booth, watching these two top contenders, previous GT3 championship winners, fighting for the potential win of this first debut race here on season 7, and also the potential of Damon Wareham to also have a chance on the top three spot here. We do see Damon Wareham still holds on the fastest time overall with a 1:41.507, about a tenth faster than what RK or Jordan Johnson have been able to do here. We can see again here Jordan Johnson just squirreling that car around the hairpin corner here to get as close as possible to RK's Nissan GTR here, but that's not quite possible to do here. But the gap is indeed closing, and we've only about 10 minutes left on our pit window here. These cars are probably going to have to go pit soon here, because if they get stuck fighting each other more and more here, that's going to be indeed Damon Wareham just flying by both of them to get into the lead of the race.
I think they're just playing chicken with each other at this point with the pit window. I think if you're RK here, you want to do the opposite of whatever Jordan is doing. If Jordan pits first, then you go long. If Jordan decides to go long, then you pit first and try to use that extra lap time and that clear air to get in front by the time the pit ends. As we get back to Saber here, who is still embroiled in this battle. Everybody sort of on board the Lily train here, but yeah, I think it's and that's going to be in for RK. So RK in the pits right now, and Jordan is staying out. So again, you know, just having the second place position, I think, is almost better than being in first, because you don't have the track position, sure, but you also have the sort of strategic flexibility to see what your opponent is doing and act accordingly. And I think that's what Jordan's doing here.
We also see the car of Saber Kitchen driving into the pits as well, getting out of this fight here probably quite wisely, because they were caught in that train for quite a long time, so they wisely decided, okay, I don't want to waste any more time here. I'm going to go into the pits and drive in clean air, because that's going to be the other consideration here. We see the lapped car of Manuel slowing down the Lexus of Athena Leclerc here quite a lot. Yeah, you can also see Maple just flashing their headlights here at the moment, just begging the car ahead to just get out of the way here, because they are not on the same lap here, so they shouldn't be fighting here. It's Skiduki almost again collecting each other. Again, Athena Leclerc flashing their cars here, getting up on the inside of the Nissan GTR here, but they are just not yielding, so I think they might have another look at their rule book on how to safely get some cars by here, because that was quite some dangerous moves here from the Nissan GTR.
Yeah, it's the second one from car 5, right? And it's not really
Absolutely,
what you want to
yeah.
see, but Athena getting through there, thankfully. And this is not this isn't exactly this isn't a like a literal P4 for Athena here. She still has to pit, so we'll see what happens there. Parker, as we're talking about pits coming up in exiting the pit lane here, is it's very close for the NSX there on Vex. So it's going to be a fight between Wolfen and Vex here for the Wolfen and excuse me.
That is the car 404 of Koen van Hove right ahead of him, but that's going to be the Honda NSX behind, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I still like and being in the sandwich here, Wolfen once again. I feel like there are plenty of drivers down the grid here who just have not been able to catch a break. We have 8.5 minutes left on our pit window, so and that's going to be Jordan into the pits. So we'll see what happens, see who comes out. Where is we'll have to see where Damon is on track right now, and also where RK is on track, and see if they can get ahead.
It's indeed Damon Warren that has inherited the lead after Robbie Kelly has gone into the pits here. You can see Robbie Kelly in the background, 4.6 seconds behind RK here. So, yeah, it's going to be quite a good chance for Jordan Johnson to also slot behind Damon Wareham here. We're going to be watching quite closely. It's going to be now Damon Wareham going around the last corner here onto the main straight here. We still see Athena's in the pits here. We see Jordan Johnson just left the pits here. So it's going to be quite closer to see who's going to be the one to get ahead of the track here. Damon Wareham still just unleashing that car. It's going to be, yes, it's going to be Damon Wareham getting that good wise undercut on Jordan Johnson, on Robbie Kelly, and inheriting the provisional race lead of the race here so far. And Jordan Johnson still leading in the pit lane. They're actually going to be behind RK as well at the end of the pit lane here.
Yeah, and that is just if I could take a picture of that and put it in the dictionary for the dictionary definition of undercut, that's what that is. Like Damon pitted well before any of these guys did, and you know, it's kind of unfortunate for Jordan here. This is kind of a worst case scenario for him, because he was expecting being out for a couple laps longer than RK to have a little bit of clear air to be able to push and get that position back, but now ends up back behind him. So and both of them are now 5 seconds away from Damon, but now the dynamic has kind of flipped for the rest of the race, right? Because Damon has the oldest tires out of all of these runners. In fact, they're running basically in tire age order at this point. So basically for the rest of this race, that was a beautiful move there for Zahn. But for the rest of this race, basically, it's going to be, you know, Jordan's going to be faster than RK, and RK is going to be faster than Damon. And we'll just have to see how that shakes out at the end, who called the strategy correct.
There's going to be still quite a big gap between Damon, Robbie, and Jordan here. Damon Burham still holding a 4.6 second gap on Aubrey Kelly so far, but I think the gap is going to be closing here on the last half of the race here. We're going to see how that gap is going to be closing. For now, though, we're going to be focusing on this fight between Zahn and Athena Leclerc and Vossi Tigris here in P16, 17, and 18. We can see the Lexus of Athena Leclerc chasing down on the Vossi's car. I do think there's a bit of damage on the Porsche of Vossi on there, so I'm not sure if they got caught up in some incident or something, so they might be a little bit slower than expected, which is why they are so far down the field here. But that's going to be another interesting thing about, because these cars, they are indeed in the same team, Tegam Racing here. So I think, I mean, personally, we don't have any team orders here, but I think if you're going to be driving with the same team here, it might be wiser for them to just duck out of the way here. Indeed, it's going to be, I think they're again in the pit lane. I'm not quite sure why, because they have already served their mandatory pit stop here, so not quite sure why they're going back into the pits.
Damage, maybe? I'm really not sure. But regardless, I mean, yeah, so that is indeed their second pit stop. That's interesting. We'll keep an eye on that, I suppose. I don't think Vossi was really Athena's fight at this point in the race, as we can see Koen van Hove trying to hang it around, and it's actually going to be 2x2 here between them and Parker, and definitely you know, didn't have the ideal line there through Paratella, and that's going to open them up to a move from the Porsche behind, and that's indeed going to sweep around the outside into there. And in fact, it might even turn into one more lost position, as we have the Honda close behind. This is kind of turning into a bit of a disaster here for Koen, but thankfully is able to stay in front of the NSX at the very least. So yeah, I mean, when these cars are running so closely together. You know, one lost position can easily turn into 2 or 3, or you get on that dirty line with the marbles and the dirt on the outside. It's really hard to keep your foot in at that point, and you're just sort of tumbling down the order.
I don't think Cohen is going to be that worried because the Cohen still has not served their mandatory pit stop yet, so they are not quite fighting these Porsche and McLaren ahead of him. We can do see Lily Armstrong's Porsche getting quite close into the rear bumper of Parker Olsen into turn 1 here. Let's see if they're going to be making the dive into turn 1 here. It's going to be Parker bringing up themselves in the middle of the track here, not leaving a door open for Lily to make a move up on the inside, so they're going to have to try again another part of the track here later on, but they are still close, so they might have another shot going up into the next set of chicanes here. We're going to be watching them again very closely, again using that slipstream to their advantage and having another peak here, but there's not going to be a possibility here. But yeah, going back on Cohen, they have not served their pit stop yet either, and the Honda behind them is a lap down, so I don't think they're going to be too concerned about any of these cars here. They're just driving their own race. They don't need to worry about anything here so far.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I'm actually surprised how close these two are on pace, and in very different parts of the racetrack. You can see, like, in all of the acceleration zones, Lily gets really close because that Porsche is so good at getting that traction off the line and out of the low speed stuff. But then, Parker with the higher top speed in the McLaren is just able to do enough to stay in front, and is also able to sort of navigate these curbs maybe a little bit better than the rear engine Porsche is, even though we see it running quite heavily over that bit there. So these two very similar on pace, but it's just, I don't think Lily right now quite has the pace in the right part of the racetrack. So it's going to have to just be, they're going to have to get a really good exit, probably out of this corner right here, and we'll see what happens. Just running over it as much as they can, as Aiden is in the pits here, one of the last of our pitters, and ends up coming out. Is going to probably come out behind that whole group, and Damon now has inherited the lead of the race where they're supposed to be. So it's game on for the next 22 minutes of this one to see who's going to win.
Yes, 2 minutes left on our pit window here, and most of our drivers have indeed served their mandatory pit stop. For the most part, we do see Koen van Hove. I think they're going to be the last of our cars here who have not served a pit stop yet, so that's going to be everyone done for now. That's going to be all down to just pure pace, see how well you can get your car around these corners here and get alongside here. We do see another Honda. I'm not quite sure which Honda it was there, but it's going to be a lap down Honda, giving way for the Porsche and the McLaren of Parker and Liddy. Again, causing a bit of a gap to widen out here, and that's going to be the other issue. As we have already seen before here, lap traffic can be both a curse and a blessing for it, depending on where you are, because as we saw with Jordan Johnson, a lap traffic car caused a massive incident, lost them the lead of the race here, so we could see that happening again with these other cars here trying to navigate the slower traffic around.
I think at some point we might have missed Jordan getting a move done on RK, because Jordan's up to second now and is chasing down Damon for the win here, and in fact has pulled quite a bit of a gap on RK here, so it's going to have to be some absolute heroics from RK at this point in the race to make up those 6-7 seconds, whatever it is, to get back into contention for this one. But I think at this point it's going to be Damon with the slightly older tires here is just going to have to see if he can hang on for the next 20 minutes of this one, and Blade Wolf kind of quietly having a pretty nice one here, up to 16th from 19th on the grid, and is just sort of circulating here. Doesn't have very many cars around them, and is probably wondering why we're going so crazy here in the commentary box, as that was a car off in the barrier there. That's Arez, so we'll have to see if that was anything particular or maybe just a mistake from Arez there. We'll go back to the replay, and it looks like, yeah, they were really close to the Porsche up in front here heading into this bit of the racetrack. So heading on down to the Villeneuve chicane here in Sector 1, and yeah, just runs the car a little bit too much over, tries to recover, and just had a little bit too much wheel spin on the grass there, and as soon as they hit the asphalt, and the sort of the front tires suddenly just got grip again, wasn't able to maintain control of it, as that's Jordan navigating some more lap traffic here. That was the Aston Martin of Cohen there. So there's still a lot to play for in this race. Gap's down to 2 seconds.
Indeed, and that was actually the Bentley of Konya, not an Aston Martin. Yeah, but they are British cars, so I guess what is the difference between them?
Yeah, they look the same.
Going back into this fight here between Lily Armstrong and Parker Olsen, they are still quite close to each other here. Again, Lily Armstrong getting right up into the rear bumper of the McLaren of Parker Olsen, going up into the final Rivazza corners here. I think it's going to be Lily having a peek on the inside, but Parker Olsen again planting themselves right in the middle of the track here, making it impossible for Lily to get around here. But they actually got a bit of a better launch into the Rivazza corner here, trying to get another good sent into the final corner here. It's going to be another drag race. Lily is going to be hugging the rear wing of that McLaren here, trying to get another look into the inside of the first chicane here. We're going to be watching them very closely. We do see another lap traffic car ahead of us. That might also introduce some more spice into this battle here, but it looks like the McLaren has a little bit more top-end speed compared to the Porsche. So despite getting that very good launch on the final Rivazza, they were not able to capitalize on that by getting a move into turn 1.
Yeah, I almost feel like this is kind of something that maybe we should look at for balance of performance if the Porsche is this slow in a straight line. And I mean, like, Parker's doing like everything they can here at this point, and this is going to be a hell of a send into the Tossa hairpin, and that is going to be Lily on the inside line there. They're still going to be side by side, and Parker is just going to do enough to get up here, but has got a Porsche on the outside there, the lapped one, manages to get out of the way, thankfully, before the braking zone into Piratella. But you can see that like Lily is all over the back of Parker at this point, and Parker is just kind of doing everything that they can to just be as annoying as possible on the defense, and like that's really all they need to do, because the McLaren here is looking really, really racy in a straight line, much more racy than the Porsche is. And you know, despite them almost literally being side by side into the second Rivazza there right before, as they're heading into the first one right now, and this could be a move, but I think it's just going to be a little bit too much for Lily here. But I mean, they're so close coming out of this corner, and then as soon as you see them get onto the straight, that gap just starts opening and opening and opening, and there's not really much that Lily can do here, although this is the closest that Lily has been this entire time, and actually looks like they might have some momentum here to get around. But no, it's just all they can do is just stay in the and that's gonna be a really, really quick jink there, and Parker's wise to it. That was you can try to get people that way and just try to sort of jink to the outside and make them think that you're going to do a move, but Parker doesn't fall for it here, and they're going to keep running the way that they are.
Yeah, going back into our fight with the top two here, we actually see Jordan Johnson has finally caught up into the rear of Damon Wareham here. So the fight for the lead of the race here, for the win of our first round on the 7th season of our GT3 Championship, is finally coming up alive again here. Jordan Johnson has been clawing that. The gap used to be probably 7 seconds, considering they were also behind Robbie Kelly at some point. Quite understandably, we were not able to see the actual overtake between Jordan and Robbie Kelly here. But hopefully we're going to be seeing this battle coming up quite alive here, with only 60 minutes left on our race to go here. So it's going to be all to play for with these two contenders here to see who's going to be winning our first round.
Yeah, last lap from Damon there was a 42.5. Last lap from Jordan, it was invalidated, but it was a 41.3. So those new tires are doing so much for Jordan right now, and I honestly I can't imagine that there's a whole ton that Damon can do here to make this work. It looks like Jordan has been able to recover and get back into the lead of this one after that incident with the lap traffic. So yeah, it looks like Jordan has played this perfectly on a strategic level, and it's just going to be Damon for the next 15 minutes, fighting for their life as hard as they can to try to hold on to this and try to make that McLaren as wide as humanly possible.
Yeah, we also see a brief change of positions from Parker Olsen and Lily Armstrong here, also fighting for their lives for the top 4 position on the track here. It's kind of unfortunate we only have one pair of eyes here to watch, because both of these drivers, both of these battles are coming alive at the exact same time. We can only watch one of them, so we're going to keep our eyes here on Damon Wareham and Jordan Johnson for now here. Jordan having a bit of a look up on the inside into Aqua Minerale here. I think Damon had a bit of a mistake going up into that previous corner there that caused Jordan to be quite close there onto the McLaren of Azure Goat, also known as Damon Wareham. Apologies about the name confuse here. But yeah, we can see again Jordan getting right up into the rear of Damon here. So it's going to be all down to if Damon can just plant their car in the exact right spot to prevent the assault of that Audi R8 from behind them. And it could be still either one's chance here to win this race.
Yeah, a bit of a bump over the curves there on the exit of Variante Alta. I really just... Oh, it's going to be so tough because, I mean, the McLaren we've seen has been really fast in a straight line. I don't really know how the Audi has been, as that looks like Lily has actually gotten in front of Parker by quite a margin, and there's probably some sort of mistake or incident between them, as we'll see going into Aqua Minerale here, and it might just be... No, they managed to keep it clean through there, and then I think Lily just gets a better exit. That the traction on that Porsche coming in, and then this sort of move here that we've seen a lot into Variante Alta slides through it. Oh my word! How did she keep control of that car? That was incredible. It feels like they were just a passenger at that point, but somehow managed to turn it into the fastest I've ever seen anyone take that chicane.
It was a very stonking overtake we saw there. I think it was all down to Parker also just getting us little bit of an uncompromised exit in from Aqua Minerale, but which gave Lily the opportunity to have a send up on the inside onto that final chicane here, and a very brave move up, bouncing up on those curves here. We're going to be seeing very closely if Jordan's going to be having a similar move up onto the inside of that final chicane here, with a Damon right ahead of them. Less than a second separating these two top competitors here on our track here, with only 12 minutes of the race to go here. But it seems like Damon's nerves are holding quite strong here, because this is going to be quite a game of mental game as well here, because it looks like these cars are equally matched here, but it's all going to be down to Jordan trying to force a mistake from the RRP lead driver ahead of them to have a chance, any chance at it. Because it seems like Damon just has that slight bit of edge on keeping their car in the exact right spot to prevent an overtake from Jordan Tossia. But we're going to be watching closely, because Jordan is quite close now onto the main straight here. It's going to see if the slipstream is going to be enough for them to have a peek up onto turn one here. Watching very closely there. Just Gabby is closing again very, very slightly here. It's going to be... No, it's not going to be a send from Jordan into turn one, but they are close to touching that rear bumper on the McLaren ahead of it. It's again almost brushing the rear bumper again, going up into the chicane here. So it's just going to be down to see if Damon has the guts, has the is the goat, so to speak, to hold this pressure from Jordan Johnson.
Yeah, you can just see Damon just parking it kind of in the middle of the racetrack here, as this looks like it might be a move. That's going to be Jordan on the inside of Tassa there. A little bit of bumping between them, and they are still almost exactly side by side here. They're coming up on some lap traffic, so this might get a little bit messy. It might be Jordan. Oh, that's another bump going into the entry of Piratella, and they're still somehow side by side through the highest speed corner on the racetrack, and that might have just been enough for Jordan to get around. Some more bumping, and it looks like that's going to be just a little bit of a loss of traction there from Damon with that last little bump on the apex of Aqua Minerale, and that is just going to be enough for Jordan to get around. But meanwhile, RK has come up on these two with all of that fighting. They've fought side by side through one of the fastest parts of the racetrack, and that has cost them both so much time this lap, and now RK is back in contention for second.
That was some very scrappy fighting from Damon and Jordan Johnson, but that seemed to be right within the limit of the rules here. But I feel like there's going to be probably some heated boards happening at the end of the race here. We're going to be seeing what the chat is going to be about here. But indeed, all of that fighting between Jordan and Damon gave Robbie Kelly the opportunity to catch right up on these two cars here. And again, that's going to be Damon under threat from RK onto the turn one here. And I feel like the Nissan GTR of Robbie Kelly has a much better straight line speed than the McLaren of Damon Wareham here. So if RK has a chance to get right up into the back of that McLaren, as we see, I think it's going to be the Honda of Skylar Vixen off the track here. Hopefully nothing wrong happening with them. But yeah, it's going to be... If Robbie Kelly can get close enough to the rear bumper of that McLaren on the main straight here, I think this is going to be game over for Damon Wareham. They're not going to be having much chance to contend against the monster straight line speed of that Nissan GTR.
Yeah, I mean, with all of that fighting, and also with Damon having the oldest tires of this group, I mean, these tires seem pretty cooked at this point. So it's just going to be Damon just, fighting for whatever they can salvage here. I think if they were able to hold on to P2 here, it would be a heroic effort. And we'll see what RK manages to do. RK with the sort of I think ended up pitting maybe 5 or 6 laps after Damon did, so it's about 5 or 6 laps newer tires on this one as we see some more fighting here between Fabio and Sierra up in front. Sierra currently leading the AM class here, so this is the fight for the AM lead in the closing stages of this race. So again, just more battles going off here, and it looks like that the front end of Fabio's Lexus, at least, it does look a little bit damaged here. So I wonder if that's affecting their speed at all in this battle. We'll see how this evolves throughout the rest of this race, and it looks like Damon is still holding on to second here in the overall standings, and Vex here seems to be cruising to a silver win, which we pretty much expected today from the qualifying times and the way that they were sort of mixing it up. But should be a good win here, and we'll see if there's any crazy sends into here as well, any of the sort of scrappy fighting that we've been seeing from the leaders.
Well, speaking of scrappy fighting here, we're going to be seeing again Robbie Kelly able to close the gap onto Damon Wareham onto this lap here. So we're going to be watching them again very closely to see if there's going to be any chance for the Tigam Racing GDR to get past the RRP of Damon Wareham up into this next corner here. It seems like, looking at the lap times so far here, they've been quite matched in lap times here, and indeed all of this fighting has given Jordan Johnson and again an opportunity to just get away with all of this, just run away into the front here. So it's going to be probably a secured victory for them unless something dramatic is going to be happening in these final 8 minutes of the track here. But it's looking like Robbie Kelly doesn't quite have the same kind of pace as Jordan Johnson did, because Damon Wareham is able to still keep the lead to about a second ahead of Robbie Kelly here. So I think it's going to be down to maybe some lap traffic or a mistake from Damon Wareham that's going to give Robbie Kelly the opportunity to ascend up into second place.
Yeah, it just seems like Damon's using just every last bit of grip that those tires have to try to build a gap right now to make sure that that they make it to the end of the race. That's really going to be sort of the name of the game at this point. And like these two, I think at this point with all of this fighting, I'd say their tires are probably about equal to each other. As you can see, like Damon's sort of pulling ahead here at the gap now. Pretty much over a second at this point. The fight between Lillian and Parker further down for fourth place has settled down. It looks like Lily's going to be taking that, and it's going to be our leading Porsche for today. So a great performance from them. And yeah, you can see just here, like with all the incidents that have happened in this race, we have a lot of really big winners from all of that stuff. Fabio being one of them, up 12 places here. JPEG and Cohen further down, also making up 12 places. And Lily here, I think honestly, like feels like she would get my driver of the day vote at this point. Just was able to navigate this one really well, starting from 9th on the grid. So has just sort of picked their battles really smartly, and shown some really good racecraft today.
Yeah, it is only a big shame that we only have 2 pairs of eyes to watch all this action happening on the track here, because we have missed so much throughout this almost an hour of racing here, with the silvers, AMs, pros, golds, all of them just scrapping for positions, for points, for wins of the race here. But we've had a very exciting race here so far here. It seems like everybody has settled down into their own gaps for the final 5 minutes of the race here. And it makes sense here, because at this point their tires are going to be at their oldest. The drivers are going to be a little bit worn out as well, because you have to keep in mind here, it's going to be, it's summer season now. Most drivers do have their sim rigs inside of probably a closed door, and I don't think many of them have any air conditioning. So driving this intensely, this fast for an hour, they're going to be looking forward to a shower.
Yeah, definitely, for sure, especially around such a physically demanding track like Imola. I mean, it's up to what, 78 Fahrenheit in my room right now, and I'm not even driving. So I think if I you know, had my wheelbase turned on, I was doing this stuff, it would be even hotter. So definitely, you know, it's been a really good race around Imola today. And honestly, I think this has been a really good showcase of the kind of racing that this track is capable of producing, especially when you have cars like the GT3s that can run so closely together. And oh, that's gonna be a little bit, that was a heart and mouth moment for the both of them there. Probably couldn't even see that car was parked up there until they were right on top of them, but thankfully we were able to get through okay. And Fabio here looks to be trying to make a move on Sierra here for the win for the AM class in the last couple of laps of this one. We have probably about 3 more laps to go, maybe 4. Depends on how fast the leaders go. Speaking of which, Jordan's last lap was a 41.3, so it's just like completely pulled away from the other two, and looks to be cruising to an overall victory here as Fabio gives it a bit of a look into Villeneuve chicane and can't quite make it work.
Yeah, the gap has been closing down between these two Lexuses for quite a while now, but I think there's been no driver swaps so far. I do have to also point out that Fabio Sol is a national driver, so they are not technically driving or competing for position with Sierra Thomas here, but I think Sierra is very much motivated to keep this Lexus behind them, because I think all of our drivers are going to be naturally competitive, even if they are not going to be driving in the same class as the others. I think all of them are going to have the instinct to just put their feet down, spread out their elbows, spread out their arms, and just say, this is my spot. If you want to get around me, you're going to have to make a move. Which we did indeed see happen at the very front of the back here with Damon Wareham and Jordan Johnson, which I feel like is going to be looked at by the stewards. And I'm not quite sure. That looked to be a very scrappy overtake, and I'm not quite sure if that was within the rules of the stewards.
Hard racing to me, honestly. You're going for the lead of the race. You're going to have a little bit of bumping. I think, honestly, the fact that they were able to sort of both keep it on track there, I think, you know, for the sort of relative amount of respect shown there, I feel like it's hard racing to me. And honestly, in these cars that can, especially in ACC, they can, you know, take a little bit of a beating without losing too much lap time, as this is going to be Fabio going down the inside here for the AM lead, but of course not the AM lead, because Fabio is not scoring points today. But try telling racers to stop racing.
Absolutely, indeed. And I think we have had some retirements throughout the race here. We're down to only 31 cars still driving on the track here. So I think some cars may have had a couple of too many incidents. We're going to have a check after the race concluded to see which ones have retired in the end here. But still, I'm pretty impressed that we still have over 30 cars on the track here, and still a battle is happening at the dying minutes of the race. So we do see this fight happening between Thomas and Fabio Sol here. And I think we also missed out an overtake happening between Mossy Tigris and Niklas Zahn early in the race. In fact, speaking of battles, Robbie Kelly has again caught up to the rear bumper of Damon Wareham, actually having a bit of a move up on the outside into turn 1 here, but Damon Wareham is able to plant their car in the right spot to block Robbie Kelly from having an overtake to happen. So with only 2 laps left to go here, it's still anyone's game to see who's going to be P2 of these two.
Oh, this is so close between them, and just is not able to get that there. But I think RK is very conscious of the fact that they are running out of opportunities here to make this work, and that's going to be almost pushing them along, and that's going to be a loss of traction there, and that is an unfortunate end to that battle. Not the way that you want to do it. I think Damon just checked up a little bit more than RK was expecting there, and I think that's going to be just a P3 for RK then today. But that happens sometimes. You know, you have stronger tires than the car in front of you, and you feel like you can carry more speed, but you can't because the car in front is going just a little bit slower. You end up in the back of them, and you just lose grip. It happens sometimes, but I don't know. We'll see if that ends up getting taken to the stewards. I doubt it. That seemed like it was pretty much fully on RK there, and just fortunate that it didn't ruin Damon's race as well.
Yeah, going back on our fight here, these are actually going to be Alexander Van der Voort and Parker Olsen, 2 gold drivers here, actually fighting for the lead of the gold category here at the moment here on the dying minutes of the race here as well. I think we saw almost an overtake happen earlier outside of our cameras here, but we do see the Lexus of that Louis dipping sauce, also known as, coming up right into the rear bumper of Parker Olsen, coming up on, I think it's going to be the second to last lap here. So not many chances left for Alexander to get these overtakes made here, but with the monstrous straight-on speed of that Lexus, I think it's going to be a big challenge for Parker Olsen to keep that car behind them.
Yeah, Parker's been basically just defending all day at this point, which sometimes you're in a race like that, and it can be fun as they go side by side here. That's going to be an outside line for Alexander, so I doubt they're going to be able to make it work, and it's actually a little bit of a slide there, and they are able to keep the grip there. I think Parker just went off a bit there and sort of lost grip, and they're going to be going side by side again as Parker's able to get the run. Parker's going to be forced to the outside, and that's going to be Alexander still in front at this point, clattering that Lexus over the curbs as much as they can, and that's going to be up to the lead of the gold class for Alexander on the second to last lap. I'm fairly certain. I don't think we've gotten the white flag yet, as Jordan is making their way around. It's going to be crossing the finish line at any point here, and the timer for the race has expired, so that's going to be a wiggle from Fabio at the exit of Tamburello, and a pretty slam dunk pass there for Sierra into the lead of the race. So Fabio able to get ahead there for just a little bit, but Sierra able to hang on to it again. Not really for not for any points or anything, just doing this for fun. As that's actually going to be the checkered as Jordan crosses the line and slides out. For
That was
some
almost
reason.
an accident there. Not sure that's going to be looked favorably on by the stewards.
Was that a lapped car? It must have been, right?
I think that was, yeah. That looked quite dangerous from them, but that's going to be indeed a win from Jordan Johnson going across the finish line here, with Damon Wareham getting P2 here a little further down the field. It's going to be Robbie Kelly in P3. It's going to be then Lily Armstrong, the last of the pros here, getting up in P4 with Alexander Vanderwood, a last lap overtake, in fact, on Parker Olsen to get into the win of the gold class here, with Parker Olsen finishing P2 there, just across the finish line here in P8. So very close fighting here, right here. And we actually do see fighting still happening between Fabio Saw and Sierra Thomas right up into the last quarters. That's actually, oh, it's going to be a bit of a moment here between the two. It might be actually a drag race over the finish line here. It's going to be very close to see who will be the lead of the race here, but I think it's going to be Sierra Thomas just squeaking by on getting the win of the AMN National Class, I guess we could call it here. And a very close one in between them. Congratulations on Sierra getting the win on the AM classification here. And also a win for Vex up, a dominant win in silver. Congratulations on them. So have the car of Electroshock getting P2 in the silver class. A quiet drive, not much action from the TGR BMW M4 here, but a pretty respectable or second position here. We do also see the car of Sad Ket now also up into the second in AM classification. So I'm not quite sure what happened to them for them to lose the lead of the race here, but yeah, quite a few cars here and quite a lot of action all the way from the start to the end.
This was like, I feel like this is probably one of the best races that we've had at Imola here, and I feel like there actually wasn't even that many retirements, which is also really nice to see always. People like mostly behaving themselves around here, aside from, you know, the usual sort of rubbing that you get when you are trying to drive cars side by side with each other. But yeah, I mean, I would be interested in seeing what was going on with Jordan there right at the end of the race with that lap traffic. It was just a bit of a nightmare for them in terms of incidents with traffic today, but was able to hold on to it and just use their raw pace to get back up to the top leaderboard. And just really great fights up and down the field today for, you know, meaningful positions, and it was really, really fun. I think I'll be interested to see what the Lexuses can keep doing throughout the rest of this series, because they seemed really, really on form today, and in ACC where cars can get upset by curbs a lot, it makes sense to run a car that can be a little bit better about those. So I feel like we're going to see a lot more success from Lexuses in this series, and what a start to season 7. It was a fun one.
A very exciting start here, and I feel like we're not going to be having the same overall winner a day later once the stewards are going to be having a looking at that at the incidents of this race here. But we're going to be keeping you all updated on that. But that's going to be the end of our very first round on the 7th season of our GT3 Championship. And on the 5-year anniversary of Simufur, it was a very worthy race for sure. Something definitely great to honor 5 years of Simufur by here, and I for sure I'm very pleased.
Yeah, me too. Brands Hatch next, which, speaking of tiny tracks where it's hard to overtake, will have an even tinier track where it's even harder to overtake. So it should be very amusing at the very least, and it's one that I have, I quite like it as a racetrack. So we'll see how that goes. And thank you all for watching up until this point. It's been a fantastic day for us here in the commentary booth, and make sure to join us next week.
Yes, and before I forget anything, it's gonna be June 1st, which means Happy Pride Month. It's just as a big general reminder, love is for everybody. Love triumphs over hate, and yeah, everybody have a wonderful June, a wonderful Pride Month, and we will see you all next week for the second round of our GT3 Championship. My name's been Denak, joined by our lovely co-commentator Kady Timberfox here in the commentary booth, and that's gonna be good enough from us all. See ya.
Good night. Happy Pride.